when what's going on? Shout out to everybody in the chat. When we have these discussions, right, or anything, even down to religion or anything, and I rarely, seldom give you what I believe, my belief. So again, to have a belief is to be unsure. You know what I mean? Like I always say about religion, yeah, I believe in Jesus or or God or whatever. So again, the belief is to be unsure. Like I know two plus two is four. I don't, you know what I mean? I don't have. I know that. That's just for certainty. But yes, you know what I mean. Just like I said, just for me being majoring in history and and just different things that I read. And like I said, I've been a lot of places in life. You know what I mean? I was blessed to be able, like I said, one thing, like I said, well, I told you I used to box. Well, boxing took me all around the world. And then outside of that, you know what I mean? Like I said, I was such a history buff. So I've been to like Jerusalem and I've been a lot of places, right? And again, and I told you before, like I said, every culture, you know what I mean? Dating back to, you know, antiquity, damn near, all talk about their interactions with different. Now again, now I'm gonna say this right now before we start today's show. I want to be clear of this. Shout out my man Stealth Right. I want to be clear of this. I'm not, or we're not trying to disrespect anyone's belief system or what you believe with Jesus, Buddha, Allah. It's not that type of show. You know what I mean? We're just having an open conversation. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people get very, very offended when you talk about subjects like that. You know what I mean? So again, you know, when I went to school. And then outside of it, I went to these certain places, and I started to have questions. You know what I mean? Like you have all these great men in the Bible, whether it's David, Solomon, all these great stories. You know, they're in the Bible. I mean,
Joseph,
Noah, Joseph,
Moses.
Mary, whoever. Paul, all these David. All these great stories in the Bible, or these men who that's my man Noah that got swallowed by the fish with the low top sandals and went on 3 days to preach about it. You got all these great stories, right? Moses, Abraham, Bathsheba, all of them, right?
Samson,
and
Delilah, Job.
whoever. You got, like I said, you got a lot of characters, in this Bible that there's no archaeological, historical evidence that they ever existed. I mean, no grave sites, no birth date. Like, you go back to thinking, you know what I mean, sort of in mind, like, what are their last names, you know what I mean? Because there's places you can go back in Africa, and they can show you grave sites that are like 20,000 years old. Like, I'm serious. Just a regular carpenter, you know what I mean? Whoever. This guy here just sold bread for a living, you know what I mean? But like I said, there's no proof, you know what I mean? Again, religion is a very, very powerful drug to believe. And I always felt like maybe that's just, not just me, because I believe it was either Harvard or Yale that did a study that said that religion was one of the things that were bringing our society down. We're not advancing because instead of people, man, putting the responsibility on themselves to go out and do better, they sit back and wait for Jesus to come back and fix everything out. Jesus is going to strike down the wicked or whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? So again, like I said, we're just talking. Before we get into the main such I just have to address what he asked me is because I really don't tell you what I believe. You know what I mean? What I believe. So again, it's the belief does not know. So there's different things that I, studied all my life. You know what I mean? Like it's so much. I read so much of this shit for so long. Sometimes I forget it. But yeah. Like I know about everything. You know what I mean? Not saying I know everything, but I know a lot about this stuff. You know what I mean? People, what's next gen with the UFOs, you tripping and all this stuff. But it is what it is, right? So again, so. I just knew then that the story didn't kind of really make sense, right? And you say that just coming from Adam and Eve and just the different races of people that we have, okay? Just let me put this together here. Just the different races of people, nationalities. You know what I mean? If we all came from Adam and Eve, whether people say the oldest human remains they found were in Africa. Just say they came, everybody was black or whatever the case may be, African, and then they try to say that, when Africans migrated out of Africa and went to Europe, they lost the pigmentation in their skin, they grew more hair, and their noses were wide in Africa, they breathe in hot air, and they again became thin and skinny when they went to Europe because they're breathing in cold air. Now, I'm going to listen to this here. Now, I am not claiming to be the sharpest knife in the drawer, but you can take me and my wife, my spouse, or either one of my bottom bitches. Don't make a difference. You can take us and put us on Pluto, right? Uranus, Neptune, you pick the planet, the constellation, whatever, and we will give birth to nothing but black babies. You know what I mean? So you're asking where all these different races of people come from. If we all came from Adam and Eve, right? and whatever color they were. How did we get so many different races of people? You know, and what I mean, we're all human, but we're different genetically. What I mean by that is, if you cut your finger in a crime scene, they can come through and say, "Hey, this DNA belongs to a person of color," or "This DNA belongs to a Latino or a Hispanic or whoever, or a Caucasian male." You know what I mean? We're different genetically, right? So like I said, like, damn, really doesn't add up. So then to take it back a little further, I mean, a little forward, and to say that God, because like I said again, there were a lot of errors. Not saying error. The Bible. No, let me choose my words wisely. I'm not trying to fit anyone. The Bible kind of contradicts itself a lot, right? It said that because I believe it was in Genesis, or I believe it was not. Please forgive me. That God repented for making man. He wanted to wipe shit in our eyes. You know what I mean? Now again, God is supposed to be this all-knowing, be-knowing entity, deity. You know what I mean? That knows everything. You know what I mean? So, or you know what I mean? Or he's supposed to know everything. So, the answer I used to get when I was younger, like, Grandma, why we gotta die, and why is things so this, that, and this, that, the other? You know what I mean? Why doesn't God, why does God let my 5-year-old cousin get hit by a car and get killed when we were younger? I used to have all these questions as a kid. Why? You know what I mean? And you know what I mean? Well, it was told me, and the answer I used to get back was, well, if what's the name? At Eve didn't eat from the tree of knowledge, or the apple, or the fruit, that was the first sin, or whatever the case may be. So now I think, that was like, typically, now I'm paying for something that had nothing to do with me. Really never really stuck well with me. That's like me punishing my child. If I leave a knife on the table and she goes and cuts her finger off, it's like me punishing her kids after her grandkids. To me, again, that just never really kind of gelled with me. And then even the whole story that the devil came into the Garden of Eden, or whatever, and convinced Eve to eat from the tree, the tree. You know what I mean? So I'm like, damn. So why? And then I got to ask again. Well, why would God allow the devil to go out there and do that? You know what I mean? But we'll see. God gives us free will,
knowing in advance.
Mm-hmm. Again, well, exactly. Listen, if God gives us free will, you know what I mean? That's the answer they always get. That's God gives us free will. But we're talking about a being. I don't know how old Eve was supposed to have been, but a deity with the devil that was able to trick a third of God's angels from heaven to come with him. So what chance did Eve have? You know what I mean? And again, I really had these questions as a kid. Like, this to me never really makes sense. Like, to me, like, the Bible.
They're solid questions too.
Yeah, and again, to me, this stuff just never really gelled up. You know what I mean? Just like, you go from, and then again, even as far as religion, because again, religion is a man-made thing. What I mean by that is, if you believe in the Bible, fine. But if you just go by the story of Adam and Eve didn't have a religion, nor did they have a Bible. You know what I mean? Then you come, whatever, hundreds of years later, they were Hebrew, right? And then Abraham or whatever, then so many thousands of years later went from being Hebrew to being Christian. You know what I mean? So that in itself was a conflict. So you had, and then again, the Christians were trying to, I'm not just picking on the Christians, they would say, well, see, the old religion failed the people. Like, that's what they, this is the answer, like, just really, you know what I mean? Because again, I took theology too for several years. The religion failed the people, you know what I mean? So this one comes to conflict with dogma, why religion is a big cause of what we have going on right now. Because Hebrews will look at Christians like they're mad because they have their Tanakh, their Torah, a part of their Christian Bible, which has nothing to do with Christianity. You know what I mean? So that then starts a conflict. Then later, so many hundreds of years later, you got Muhammad, you got Islam, then you got Christians looking at at Muslims crazy because they have their stories a part of their Quran. So getting back to the initial thing what we were talking about, you know what I mean? Like, again, this shit is just like really just like never made any sense. So, like, and I'm gonna say this last thing, and I'm gonna tell you why. I had to give you the long version, because like I said, I don't really like tell people what I believe. So a belief is to not know. You know what I mean? To be unsure. So these is always the questions that I have, right? So going back to the initial question, you say, Zaire, do you believe that humans were genetically modified? Now, I knew, no. I know in school, I was, whatever you thought that we evolved from apes or working primates or whatever. Then again, I went back and said, if God is perfect, God makes no mistake. Why were there so many different early species of man? You had Homo erectus, you had Neanderthals, you had, we're Homo sapiens. Like, like, why would you say?
You had Encino Man?
No, yeah, you know what I mean? You said we were made in So then you go back to we, right? We. It said, let us create man in our image, right? Let us create man in our image. Then I get to asking who was us and who was our. So then again, Christians will say that he's talking to the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Now, this is very, very, very important because in the Old Testament, Hebrews, they don't believe in the Son and the Holy. They believe in one, the Father, Abba. You know what I mean? They don't believe in this whole Trinity thing. It's just one.
Yahweh.
Yeah, just believe in what they want to call him, Yahweh, Jehovah. They just believe in one. You know what I mean? They don't believe in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. You know what I mean? So you're saying, let us create man in our image. Now, again, once I went to school, I got to keep telling you this. Then I found about the Sumerian culture a little bit. I learned about it a little bit in high school, but really got into that when I went to college, right? And then you compare the Sumerian tales of creation to the Old Testament, right? This when it gets spooky, right? If you compare the Sumerian tales of creation to the Old Testament, the Tanakh, the Torah, whatever you want to call it, right? The same stories that are in the Tanakh, the Torah, which is the Old Testament, came from the Sumerian tales of creation that predated that by thousands of years. You know what I mean? So now you sit back and scratching my head, like, you know what I mean? And I remember when I learned this, it's like, damn, it's like, you know what I mean? Even I was kind of following up with this whole religion stuff. That really just like blew my mind. You mean you tell me that this existed thousands of years before this right here?
As well? Yeah.
Yo, this one, bro. Listen. Abraham is considered to be in the first. Abraham, the Jew, or whatever the case may be. This predates him by thousands of years, and didn't know that he had know that they have a religion, or you know what I mean, or no Bible. The Sumerian tales of creation is just their history. You know what I mean? So last but not least, that blew my mind. Right? I said, but damn. Now I couldn't wait to go home. I called my grandmother. You learn something new. You want to share with everybody. And listen, it's kind of trippy to me talking about you now, but more people are going to be woke up. Imagine them. We're talking about back in about 15 years ago. You know what I mean? I'm talking. They looking at me like I got 3 eyeballs in the middle of my head, man. You know what I mean? This is before the days of YouTube and all this stuff. You know what I mean? They looking at me crazy. And I'm talking about. They nobody know what the hell I was talking about. So see, then again, I'm being shunned. Well, see, the devil. See, God said the devil was gonna put stuff here to bring you away from Him. I'm like, whoa. No, listen, this ain't making no sense. We're talking about something that predates this. Listen, we can't argue about 2 and 2 equals 4. You know what I mean? But we ain't talking about what came first, the chicken or egg, or the egg. This here is proof that these people, you know what I mean, whether you believe it or not, we're going to go into the whole genetic thing, whether you believe it or not, they existed thousands of years before the Tanakh or the Torah, these people. See, the problem is with the Tanakh and the Torah, that when they're telling the story in the Tanakh and the Torah, they're telling it like it's their history. Like it was them or whatever they was going through in bondage or whatever. You know what I mean? This is their story. They didn't say that they came from the Sumerians. And again, they didn't have a God, a deity, or Jesus. No, like they didn't know. They said they had their gods or their lords. Now whether you choose to believe the Sumerians or not, now they said that they were genetically modified. You know what I mean? Now, this is what they said in part of their culture. You know what I mean? So when it says in the Old Testament, let us create man in our image, like I said, that there, Genesis comes from the Sumerian tales of creation. Now, look, like the same stories, their names may change. The Bible calls him Adam. The Sumerians call him the Adam. You know what I mean? Now, these people, was crazy as hell when I think they started discovering stuff some in the 40s and 50s and stuff. They were so far advanced than we were then. The things that they talked about the rings of Saturn. They talked about all the planets, and they said Uranus and Neptune are greenish blue. We didn't find that stuff out until we started seeing the voyages past there back in the 60s and 70s. You know what I mean? So this when it started to get a little traction. You had Carl Sagan and all those guys, and the gods of the chariots. This was starting to heat up in the 70s, right? But again, so once they were able to prove that these things these people were talking about was actually correct, you get back and scratching your head. But damn, these people they didn't have any planetariums, they didn't have any telescopes. How the hell did they know all this stuff here? You know what I mean? So now, bring you into Now Common Day, documentary. Everything that we've been taught is wrong, right? And basically Lloyd Pye, he talks about how with Darwinism theory, how it's basically it's full of junk. You know what I mean? There's no archaeological record or any, missing link or saying that we came from this to that. I mean, not even a fingernail. And he also goes and playing how hard it is. It'd be like a miracle on a miracle to find a fossilized human being, a bone or whatever the case. And he talks about
he was explaining it how modern humans would actually humanize some of their findings, and slightly fabricate them too to actually freaking validate that this is that. It's the same problem it has with religion too. Everybody tries to humanize deities. They even humanize things like you could look at your Xbox controller. It looks like it's got a face on it, or you could see it in a car, or you try to humanize your pets. So it's just our nature in general to find commonality with us being humans with even our past, and that's what he was bringing up in his documentary, from what I've seen in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're speaking about Lloyd Pye, correct?
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to go ahead and start the topic again. I asked Next Gen here, also known as Zaire, are we genetically modified whatsoever? And he replied, there's a lot of proof to say that. Look, our bones really aren't that strong compared to a lot of animals. We have a lot of back problems. We don't like a lot of natural food here on Earth. And there's just so many things. And he always said, I don't believe we evolved from apes. Always thought he was fucking crazy until he brought up Lloyd Pye. Lloyd Pye opened my mind. This dude just had so much proof behind him, and he doesn't just sound like crazy dude. This guy went to Tulane University. He worked for the military intelligence, and he actually looked into evolution. This guy showed me a lot of things. For example, if we evolved from apes, something that's completely off is apes have 48 chromosomes. Humans have about 46.
Yeah.
So how do you lose 2 chromosomes but become so much better? How do you lose all that hair? And even other basic shit, like how come humans are like the only animals that have to wear clothing to survive just basic weather?
Yeah,
I thought that was weird.
Yeah. So again, I want you.
Humans chose that option.
That's not chosen. You can't just survive it. There's very few environments you can survive purely naked.
I'll play this. This is. I said. Okay, so look, that's why I like this show. We all have different, what we think, right? All right. And you're saying that we can survive. So again, I don't think we can. If you take and put us in the jungle, or we'll put you in Africa, Nethus, or whatever, wisdom, with nothing on. No sun, nothing, nothing in the middle of the desert. You jokers would be screwed, you know what I mean? Sunburn, all types of stuff, you know what I mean? And, maybe skin cancer, whatever the case may be.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, so my genes won't be compatible with it because that's not my freaking era of where I actually grew up.
Yeah,
or
genes even you were born there.
No lineage towards that area.
Okay, even you.
Yeah, I wasn't even born there.
So. Once again, because you got white, people, Caucasian people that have been living in Africa for hundreds of years. Parts of certain different, again. So what he's basically saying, if we count from here, why do we have so many problems? The sun, we're not adapted to the sun. It gives us cataract, glaucoma, whatever the case may be. And then you have animals, if we evolve from this species here, or whatever the case may be. First of all, again, to lose 2 chromosomes, not to get too technical, not to lose everybody, that's a lot of DNA, a lot. And then,
humans and apes share about 99% of their DNA, right?
It can be a mutation,
sounds like
right? Due to radiation, you lose freaking DNA freaking signatures too.
Chromosomes?
Oh yeah, that is true.
There could have been a cataclysmic
wisdom. That is true, but if you look at human
DNA
and compare to apes, you would see that what's weird is we actually have 2 chromosomes that suddenly get combined.
Fused.
Like chromosomes
number 2 and number 3.
Yeah, they get fused to.
Number 2, chromosome 2, chromosome 3. Yeah, they're fused.
Exactly. That doesn't just happen fucking naturally.
Yeah.
Especially for how far we date back, because we only date back by 200,000 years.
Or whatever.
It's not it's not long.
Yeah. So again, some people may not know what the hell that is. Basically saying, if you, I'm gonna leave the link to the documentary. Actually, I'll put it in the chat so you guys can watch it. You know what I mean? But there's other stuff you can do on it. With those 2 chromosomes, to be fused. It's like saying, and they only find it in things, and they come out of a laboratory. They do all types of stuff in laboratories, something that's been tinkered with. And on top of that, he also goes into the fact that we have a lot of what's called junk DNA errors. You know what I mean? If we came from the, how you should say, the animal kingdom or the chimp or whatever the case may be, we have so many birth defects. You know what I mean? When an animal when an animal gives birth to whatever it is, whether it's whatever, and it has some genetically problems, either the mother kills or abandoned, so that problem doesn't come back into the gene pool. You know what I mean? You understand what I'm saying? So if just say if I don't know, a deer gives birth to a baby, a fawn, and that's blind and has 2 legs, she will abandon it because that animal genetically, instinctively don't want those issues back into the gene pool. You know what I mean? So like I said, we have so many different problems. And again, like I said, I'm not going to try to get too far out of it, but I mean, it's something to wrap your head around. You know what I mean? Just going back to, like I said, the chromosome 2 and chromosome 3, where they're fused together. You know what I mean? And then again, if we came from apes or whatever the case, why are we so much weaker? You understand what I'm saying? If we evolved, we evolved and got weaker. When something evolves, it becomes better. You know what I mean? Because we're smarter, but we're much weaker than a chimp is strong enough to rip a grown man's arm out of the socket, literally. The little chimp that Michael Jackson, Bobo, what's the Michael Jackson monkey name? Boo, Bobo?
Bubbles.
Back in Bubbles, there you go.
Yeah.
It has
Fuck up Mike Tyson if they were to fight.
Yeah, it literally has the strength of 10 men. You know what I mean? But yeah, finish. What you saying, Ethan, about what kind of caught your mind the most? I'm going to put the link in the chat. Hold on 1 second.
Anyway, yeah, going on with the whole chimp thing. So, like, how do you lose all this DNA but become better? You become smarter. That doesn't really make all that much sense. And also, we always talk about how we're like, we just need to find this missing link. We need this missing link. Well, Lloyd over here is saying you're not going to find that missing link. It doesn't really exist. A lot of stuff doesn't make sense. As you said earlier, we talk about hominoids, pre-humans, right?
Yeah.
You always believe we're evolved from them.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, and Z said this earlier, we don't even have a fingernail in common with those things.
Yeah.
Our bones are completely fucking different. You're not going to change all that much. And if you look at ancient burials and everything, you can see that humans only date back by like 200 to 300,000 years ago. That's not very much time, guys. Especially if you go by Darwinism and evolution standards.
Okay, well, this kind of dates back to what I said earlier. The leap that we made from having stone tools, like, it's not that long of an evolution. Like I said, because again, I'm not saying that it's correct, but the Sumerians are pegged at being the first civilization. I mean, they had laws, they had an army, a navy, they had all types of stuff. A lot of things that we use today come from them. When you go to the Notary Public, or you have a seal, you know what I mean? You stamp it, with your, you know what I mean? Before your signature, you had a seal of approval. All that stuff came from them. Like, where did all this stuff come from? You know what I mean? Like, they just overnight, bam, laws. They're smart, talking, walking. You know what I mean? Out of nowhere. And then again, like I said, there is no. It wouldn't be a missile link because you have to gradually. Again, we're so much different from the earlier species of Neanderthals, whatever. It's so much different. There will have a few links, not just one. It would have to be. We will gradually. If that's the case, change over time. It's not just one. It's not,
that's how Darwinism works.
Yeah, but it had to be.
You're not going to have a. Yeah, it's a small steps. You're not going to have a complete change like we do with humans. That's what doesn't make sense.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, cause I don't remember.
The only downside to all that stuff, though, man, is that it validates the Christian belief that we came from God too, which really sucks.
No, tell me why did it validate that?
Yeah, why does that suck?
No, the reason why is because you could actually place a fabrication in the sequence of how Darwinism and all that stuff came. How the layout is. Because the fact that humans have access to all this content, just like the Piltdown Man was fabricated too, as long as there's human interaction with it, they could place any set of evidence they claim into it. So that just feeds the Christian argument, claiming that because humans are fallible, that the God theory or any placement in the Christian faith is valid because of that.
Well, here's the thing with that. To me,
these guys can't find the sources of it. So
no,
our God or our deity has to be true, though.
No, here's the thing about that, and to me, it still kind of disproves it, because if we were made in God's image, right, His likeness or whatever, why were there so many different species of earlier forms of man? Neanderthal, Homo erectus, this, that, you know what I mean? If again, there's something that you can still find, or proof of, if we came to me, and again, because it said, let us create man in our image. So what version was it? You know what I mean? The Hitachi 2000, the Hitachi 2000, or you know what I mean? Or what model was it? The KS 9000?
Yeah, because but I'm saying that's an argument that a Christian would give out there, making statements like
you're absolutely right. You know what I mean?
Which really sucks.
You're absolutely right. You know what I mean? See, again, when I talk about religion, and bro, it's crazy. And I want to say this to ladies and gentlemen. I met these two cats here in my party. You know what I mean? Like I said, you know what I mean? I just want to give you a little backdrop. That most people you see me rocking with shows, they were subscribers of mine. Whatever. I made them, like I said, I rock out with those that rock out with me. And I remember us having this conversation. I don't know if it was the first time I played the party, whatever the case. When I first started live streaming, right? And my man, shout out to Jerusalem, which is crazy. It happened with the flat Earth stuff. You know what I mean? So he always turned the show left, the stream or whatever, right? And we were talking. I'm not saying about religion is a very, very deadly, dangerous thing. You know what I mean? What I mean by that is, like I'll give you an example. The Jerusalems, right? The Hebrew Israelites. They believe that King James was a black man. You know what I mean? Like they really believe that King James was a black man in the Bible. The King James version of the Christian Bible. They believe that this King James was a person of color. And that's what I'm talking about. How things can be a little. I don't know. Let me take it down. I'm trying to
misinterpreted, man.
Yeah, you know what I mean. But again, you get it as law, because even with that right there, he doesn't believe that there are any other planets in the solar system, the galaxy, nothing. He thinks it's just the Earth, which is flat with a dome on top. The sun and the moon is a hologram. Like I'm serious. You know what I mean? That's some of the things. I mean, now what? Listen, we can go back and forth all day whether you believe there's life on these other planets. We can go back and forth, and they're all about that. But nah, he don't believe that they exist. That's all a fake. You know what I mean? None of that stuff is real. To me, that's when things become a little dangerous. So again, when most Christians believe that the world, Earth, is only 6,000 years old. You know what I mean?
The flat Earth theory is based around the fact that they bring up the point of 4 corners of the globe, or the 4 corners of the Earth is how it's stated as. So it must be a blanket. So because it's in the Bible, it validates that it's flat.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And they also told you talking about there's no gravity. Why is the ocean water? Like it's a whole bunch of stuff. How I don't know, come up with that. Well, I would say if the world was flat, you should be able to fly from point A to point B, and would you fall off? You know what I mean? You go from A to B if the world is flat. I mean, but
there's some points where people will talk about planes and all that stuff taking off, and they go, "Well, why don't they go into space?" So in other words, when inertia happens, gravity just disappears. Makes no sense.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like I said, and again, like I said, anyone has the full, they all the answers. No, you know what I mean. Also be clear, I don't think I'm not claiming to be 150% correct. You know what I mean. That we all are entitled to our own.
I'm not 150% correct either.
Yeah, we are all entitled to our own personal beliefs. You know what I mean, or what you may believe, or what you think. But even like I said, even with the pyramids, right? We kind of touched this on this last week, right? With the pyramids, right? And the reason why I'm bringing it up again, Maya. The reason why I say that because this boxer named by the name of Steve Cunningham, right? I was talking to him on Twitter, and I knew about a comment he made that he was I didn't know that he was a Hebrew Israelite or whatever the case may be, right? So I don't know how we got into the whole flat Earth thing, and then went into the pyramids. And I said to him, this is real honestly, whether you again believe who built them, that's whatever. But you have stones at the bottom of the pyramid that weigh excess of 220 tons. We don't have equipment today. Listen, today in 2016, that can move a stone.
2017.
Yeah, 2017, 18, whatever. of 220 tons. I want you to think about, you have stones at the the grades that are 220 tons, and on top of that, just listen. Now again, I was taught in school that the Egyptians or whatever built the pyramids, right? Everybody built the, but this one, like I said, when I went to college, when I started in high school, that when I found out that the Sumerians actually wrote about the pyramids. Now listen, the Sumerians predates the Egyptians again by thousands of years, right? And then again, what's that compounds that is that it sits on one true north. You know what I mean? And the only way again to map one true north is coming from above, space or whatever. You know what I mean? It actually sits on one true north, and then it's not that when they all line up across the globe or whatever, across the world, and then there are pyramids all over in China. Just they line up with each other. So like they would sit down, who the hell built this? And then I started wondering about Nikola Tesla or whatever. I'm quite sure everyone heard of the Tesla cars or whatever. Now him in himself was like, you talking about, if you think Einstein was somebody hot, he destroys Einstein. You know what I mean? And he said, Tesla was like that. That the pyramids were part of an energy grid. You know what I mean? That they were used for like wireless energy. Now again, I don't know. I'm not saying it's true. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying, if you're going to say the pyramids are 10,000 years old, we didn't have the technology. I don't, to do that. You know what I mean? Even like I said with the Nazca line, we kind of touched on that yesterday, that you can only see it from above. But that's just that they did that these people in Nazca, the Nazca line do these shapes on animals or birds and stuff. But it's the whole shot of a mountain is shaved off. You know what I mean? Like like how you say symmetric, like a shaved off completely, like a bulldozer. Now they didn't have the equipment to shave off a face of a mountain back then. So what the hell, you know what I mean? So again, it's so much, you know what I mean? I and this is my own personal belief. I do believe a lot of things are kept from us for whatever reason, you know what I mean? To keep us dumb. Like I said, I think like with religion, religion keeps keeps us not answering questions, You know what I mean? But yeah, but like, what do you think about
the pacifier?
What do you think about the pyramids? Who do you think built them?
Yeah, to me, it's highly probable that all that is true, and there's tons of proof claiming it. I don't see why not. It wouldn't be.
Say it again. I'm sorry, bro. Can you just say it again?
I was saying that it's a really Yeah, he went through something really quick though, man.
Oh.
But the all the stuff with the pyramids, there's too much evidence pointing that a lot of that stuff is highly plausible or even probable.
Oh, give it to me. I want to hear it.
So,
what do you mean plausible? 220 tons. Talk to me. 220 tons. Talk to me.
But pretty much the layout, pretty much the weight of the stones, pretty much the arrangements on how they made claims on how the slaves or any other laborers actually constructed it in the first place.
So, all right, here's the thing.
The writings on the inside showcase in some forms how it was actually created, and some of it is alien in nature.
Yeah, I think they do have pictures of whatever, discs and different, I think they talked about again, deities. Well, you know what? To even say the God, Jesus, because the definition of extraterrestrial means anything from above. You know what I mean? So, cool.
Yeah.
Maybe God is alien, right? Because extraterrestrial, because the definition means if anything from above, it's extraterrestrial, right? But
and even alien is just foreign, is all it is.
Foreign to this planet, like
different.
You got Mexicans, illegal alien. If I go right now to Russia, I'll be an illegal alien, right? We get the joke, but listen, right?
Have you ever been to the planet of Mexico?
Yeah, right. Tell me about it, right?
Taco Bell. It's Taco Bell.
I remember that in school we had one teacher. I had another teacher. Actually, he wasn't even my teacher. He was just someone in the class. I don't know if it was a sub or something. And we was talking about pyramids. It was, you know what I mean? We said, they use these wooden logs to pull them in slaves, but there were no trees or whatever the case, to move, like, you know what I mean? To roll the stones on it. They put them like to roll the stones. They made it, you know what I mean? back there. Like this, it wasn't just like I said, like plausible. But then you have other places. What's that in Peru? When they have these other structures or whatever the case may be, they're so
Stonehenge is one of them.
Yeah, that's in Europe. But you have these stones that look like they've been laser-like cut out, and they're so wedged together, you can't even stick a piece of hair or a credit card between them. You know what I mean? Even in bottom some of them structures, you have stones that access up like 70, 80 tons. You know what I mean? Just think about, all I'm saying is then, just think about in today's climate, and we're building something. Do you know how much 80 tons is? You know, again, I understand. And listen, you know, I always say, well, you think we're man is smart, yes, but over time we get smarter, right? Just think about this. What I'm saying. I understand that we are smart. I don't, you know, what I mean, I'm not saying we know what mankind knows at all. We're still learning stuff every day. But what I'm saying is that over time we get smaller. Technology gets better, right? Better. I'm just saying that we were able to build things like that back then. And that was, like I said, that still doesn't explain one true north. You know what I mean? Like that's like saying they just landed it there. Yeah. That's like, you know what I mean? Or that was just the luck of the straw. Or the fact that it's still standing. Then what about the ones over in other places? They sit on one true north. Like, you know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? They don't really talk about that, but you can't really explain that. So even to say the way, listen, this is what it gets really trippy at. That the one from, you know, in Egypt, the pyramids, whatever, line up to the ones that supposedly were there in Mars.
And
you know
Mars. Yep.
So then how do you explain that? You know what I mean? Like they, you know, whether there has been some photos that came out from NASA, whether you said they're doctored or whatever the case may be. It's just kind of like, it's kind of trippy and eerie. This, you know, how those, you know, the coordinates line up with each other. That's all that I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Z, how do you explain that face on Mars, which are like right next to those pyramids?
You know what's crazy? Now again, my man was kind of just on that.
To me, if I see a freaking mountain, that's all I see.
Okay, but look, here's the thing, right? Now, even check this out. This is real trippy, right? We all know who Senator McCain is, right? Senator McCain.
Yes.
Yeah, Senator John McCain. Yeah.
All right. When those photos came out from NASA, I believe it was in the 70s, right? And I want to say this, that the government and the military, they're ahead of us. You know what I mean? They said back then like 50 years. Because think about it. The internet was around back in like the 50s or so. The Navy used it, right?
DARPANET is what it was called then.
Yeah, you know what I mean? They had it back then, you know what I mean? So these pictures came out, and again, it blew everyone away. You know, this face on Mars, right? So then I think it was back maybe like in the, I want to say maybe the early 2000s or the 90s, right? The late 90s, that they sent another probe back there to take pictures. Now these pictures here look totally different. Now, what amazed me that the ones that came out in the 70s were much clearer than the ones that came out in the 90s to 2000s. And Senator McCain, you can probably find his comment on YouTube, whatever, told NASA there was going to be a day of reckoning if they found out they've been lying to the American people. Then right not too long after, I think it's around like 2001, right around 9/11. That's when I seen it. It was on the Sci-Fi Channel, right? I believe it was the Sci-Fi Channel, right? It was a day of reckoning. Then NASA released some more photos, right? Let me see if I can bring it up here. Literally some more photos, and you see like this long cylinder tube on the Martian surface, and they were saying like this is maybe glass or steel or whatever the case may be. Like this is a trip. This came out just like, I think it might be right before the towers went down or whatever the case may be. And I remember I was so excited about me saying like, oh my God, what the, look at this grandma. I remember talking to my grandma, look at these tubes, right? You know what I mean? It looked like a long worm. Like this would look like a mile or 2 miles long, or whatever the case. And how they can tell that it was a glass or something stronger than glass or steel, it was a tube, right? So again, what's to me that I found was funny is that Cydonia, that the images that came out later on from NASA were much blurrier, you know, than the photos that came out in the 70s. You know what I mean? You know, much, and you know, because people couldn't wait to see the face on Mars again. You know what I mean? We know cameras are better, technology is better. We can't wait. This is really, you know what I mean? And then I don't know how it looked worse than the first photos. You know what I mean? To me, it didn't make any sense. And you know, and again, that's when NASA got the nickname. NASA stands for Never a Straight Answer. You know what I mean? So again, Nathan, I mean, how could you really explain that you got in Egypt, you got the Great Pyramids that lines up, whether you say they're rocks or building stone, literally lines up directly with those in Cydonia. You know You know what I mean? To a T. Like, how would you explain that?
Well, I would explain that with another question. So
Yeah.
let's
Oh,
look at the
shit.
Egyptians. They had what tools? They had what tools? They had like copper and bronze. That's all
Yes.
they had, right?
Yeah.
To fucking cut this shit. You couldn't do that shit today, and people just say, "Oh, well, they just had a lot of time on their hands." There's no fucking way. You said there's like what 220. How heavy is that shit at the bottom? 220
tons. Well,
tons.
let's say they estimate the largest
220 tons.
About the
There's no way
220
you
tons.
could fucking move that.
See, the only thing I could explain for, especially with the copper, is sending electricity through it, because that is valid where you could actually use electricity to cut through stone. But where do they get these batteries
but
from?
to have
'Cause they could use the
fucking
copper for it,
stone like in the shape of that, fucking like perfect squares practically.
They are.
And you could trim lines of copper and have it.
Yeah, and then I mean,
set
how are you
link and
gonna
shit
explain
too,
the
and
whole
send
true
electricity
north and
through it.
lining up with Mars on top of that, and it's still standing to
Just
this fucking
astrology.
day?
You could use astrology just to find the points, and then just base your stuff off of that.
One true north.
But it's still standing
Just 'cause-
to this day.
No, it's universal.
I mean, shit, dude, you can't just have a convenient way to explain all of this. It's some fucking wacky shit. I mean, come on, wisdom.
Hey, Wisdom, you got to
Still
scratch your head
standing
on
to
that
this
one,
day
man.
on
Yeah.
sand.
And listen, with the technology, listen, it's like if I'll give you an example, right? The latest building today, made with the best supply, whether steel, rebar, whatever, right? In about 100 years or whatever, 20 years, that thing was gonna start to erode without some repair. These things are still standing, thousands of years. You know what I mean? That in itself is kind of trippy. And
It
things
is.
things
Not
have been
saying that
stripped.
it isn't.
Things have been stripped and taken from it. You know what I mean? Things have been taken. Again, they were saying that the top of the pyramids it was lined with gold. Now, Tesla. We talked about Tesla. I don't know if it was in the live stream, whatever. Like some of the things he talked about,
Yeah.
whatever. Some of the things he talked about. You know what I mean? Like I said, he said it was used for was used for wireless.
Oh yeah. Speaking of Tesla, we still use some of his shit today for like wireless, as you just said, and
Yeah.
other things. If you guys find this guy crazy, if you find him sane, a genius, whatever, this dude was talking about aliens himself. He
Yeah.
told us he got all his shit from another being or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, Tesla, and and again, one of his major, I won't say majors because he done so much, is that the Russians are credited as launching the first satellite. You know what I mean? But he found there was one already up there. You know what I mean? Some people call it the black satellite or whatever the case may be. What's so odd about it is that
The Black Knight satellite.
yeah, whatever. What made it so odd? And again, this is something that Tesla talked about. Just say if our satellites go counterclockwise or whatever, it's going the opposite way. You know what I mean? And like so many thousands of miles per hour. You know what I mean? Like who the hell put that? It's not just like some people say it's a piece of debris, it's a rock, but it's leaving it's emitting signals and stuff that he was able to pick up. You know what I mean? With the radio, you know what I mean, sonar or whatever, however he detected the signals. Like who put that there? You know what? We can leave it like this, right? And you guys can chime in. Even if you are the most evangelist Christian person in the world, right? Because a lot of them, which I find is funny. I don't say, but I know Christianity. A lot of them are put off by the thought of extraterrestrials, right? Now, again, I mentioned this last show. I say it again. They did it was called the Brookings Report. I believe it was like in the 60s, whatever. Basically, it was like a big think tank from like Harvard, Yale, all the top big brains in the world back then, right? Did a report for the government. Before we supposedly went to the moon, because he said if you find evidence, I'm sorry, no, I'm lying. If you find evidence of older civilization or whatever, do not tell the people because they was not ready to tell. So basically saying that the religious fabric or structure on our planet will fall apart. Because then your answer to this big question here is that, well, if Jesus Christ died for our sins, well, did he die for their sins also? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Now you got this new thing with Christianity. What they say is that those aren't aliens or extra. Those are demons. I'm like, damn. I'm thinking like, damn, a demon need to ride around a UFO. So when
demons coming from the sky.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Just like the one ship that I discussed the last time straight from the freaking Bible in Ezekiel.
Yeah.
About the whole 1,000 freaking heads and all that crap. It was spinning as a fire disc and all that, and
yeah. See, I mean, I don't know.
Claiming
man.
that it was from God or from Satan, either, you know.
And since we're talking about Christianity and God and the whole creationist theory, I want to go ahead and take this back to the whole alien stuff we were talking about earlier with the Sumerians. Now, the Sumerians always said they were created and their lords were the Anunnaki, who, I believe that word stands for he who come from the stars.
Yeah, he who come from above, yes.
He who came from the stars.
He who come from heaven above, heaven, stars, but yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah, stars, close enough. Anyways, they said they were genetically modified by these. So instead of explaining how we're genetically modified, let's explain why we were genetically modified. All right, so supposedly these Anunnaki came here because they needed a good resource we have here on Earth, which is gold.
Yes.
And this is a proven fact. If you send gold into the atmosphere, it's a good deflector for sun rays.
Yeah.
It will help heal your planet if you run into problems like we're having actually today.
Yeah.
And this is proven by even our own science. This isn't some crackpot shit. So anyways, the Earth has a lot of
heat and stuff like that too.
Exactly. The Earth has a lot of it. I mean, we can still find it to this day. So they were basically mining the ship, but the problem was the Anunnaki aren't really adapted for our atmosphere. They're not. So what they thought was they were already creative, they were very smart, and they knew genes. So they took hominoids, which, you know, we have some similarities to them, and they modified them, which explains a lot of shit. But the problem was, they have 46 chromosomes, we had 48. So that's why your chromosome 2 and 3 are actually fused together to go ahead and make it similar so we could have a hybrid. And with the hybrid, it was more adaptable. And
it wasn't so much adaptable, basically. They made us smarter. They made, you know what I mean? Let us create that in our image and our likeness. You know what I mean? You know what is great? That's
exactly. That's why that shit always comes up. And even with that, there's a lot of weird shit with humans, aren't there? For example, we have this huge brain that's supposedly intelligent, but we can only use roughly 10% of it. How the hell do you explain that?
That 10% freaking thing is a myth, by the way. It's been debunked. There's videos across the board on it. Yeah, just research it. That's just a basic statement. That's at one point. You actually get anywhere up to the range of 75 to 80% actually.
Well, we're still not using
for all
our
functions
brain.
Across the board actually.
Yeah, well, I know we don't use our whole 100% of our brain. Whatever the numbers are, whatever the percentage is, you know what I mean? But again, no, you know what's great? I'll take it a little bit and we'll take that piece by piece, right? Now, see what you just said, right? All what you just said, right? What you were saying. About the Anunnaki coming here, and they came here to mine our planet for gold. Now, bigger and better than that, gold was I guess exclusive here, was something on Earth that didn't have on other planets. I mean, to give you a little fun fact, they said in Saturn it rains diamonds, literally. You know what I mean? Another fun fact, but they came here to mine for gold, and they was needed to repair their atmosphere. You know what I mean? Because I guess through pollution or whatever, they basically was tearing it up. You know what I mean? So they came here to mine for gold. They say, no, this is such hard work. You know what I mean? Let's make us a slave, the Adam. You know what I mean? A human worker, right? So they took what was indigenous to the planet, which was the Neanderthals, the Homo erectus, whatever, those there. That wasn't as smart. Some of the jokers, not saying they were monkeys, but those earlier, living in caves, writing shit on the wall. They wasn't that intelligent, right? They took them, took their, the best traits from the Anunnaki, or whatever the case may be, whether it's us being smart, us being very violent. You know what I mean? Just think about this. I'm gonna come back to the Bible, right? Us being very violent in nature, warlike people. You know what I mean? We got the good and the bad. You know what I mean? So now again, whether you choose to be, this is what these people wrote down in their history. You know what I mean? Now, just the fact that they know about gold and putting it in the atmosphere and just all this type of stuff is even mind-boggling. We're talking about thousands of years ago, right? For these people to even write this down, but then again, going back to Christianity, we can try to make, which still it doesn't make sense. If we were made in God's image and His likeness, why are we so fucked up? You know what I mean? Like I said, the devil get blamed for a lot of shit. If we were made in His image and His likeness, you know what I mean, or whatever, where did all this mayhem come from? You know what I mean? So again, that's a big, well, it didn't happen until Eve ate from. So God created sin, all this murder. Like, which one is it? You know what I mean? Like, We can't have this thing here both ways. This thing here gets spooky. You know what I mean? Like, are you gonna say that, you know, if Earth, God, you know, created the earth, right, or whatever, all the animals, whatever, we go by all that, right, all and rested on the seventh, and then you know what, he created man. Go down here, and they gave Adam the dominion over all the animals in the kingdom. They told Adam to go out there and name all the animals in the kingdom, right? Boom, right? So, all right, Adam got lonely. He needed a mate. God made him a mate, right? Took one of his ribs, or whatever the case may be, right? You got that story there. So then my question again, you know what I mean, which I think a lot of people that are very, they get kind of defensive. That's one thing. I mean, my wife does this stuff thing. She believes in this stuff. More power to her. Is there something they can't explain? They get very defensive of. You know what I mean? Because we all could sit back. Sometimes, if I come to you right now and I can tell you, yo, my man Raheem, man, he was out there swimming, man, but he got swallowed by a fish, man. He had some low top sandals on the robe, a silk robe. Spit him out 3 days later. He alive. Now he out there preaching in downtown North. You look at me like I was crazy as hell. You understand what I'm saying? If I come to you right now and say, you know what, man? Wisdom got swallowed by a shark. But 3 days later, we see him on Broad Market preaching. You know what I mean? Out there cutting up, shouting, and preaching. Like, come on, man.
Man, you know I must have been a fucking extra on freaking Sharknado 7 or some shit.
I don't know, man. Like, I'm just saying, man. You know, like you had all these miracles going on, or even, you know what? Look at this. This guy, they say that God revealed Himself to these people all these thousands of years through whatever it means, right? And the reason why the Christians said we went from the Old Testament to the New Testament because the Old Testament wasn't working anymore; those laws weren't working anymore, right? So, what wasn't relevant? What was going on in those times? So, my question is, what was going on in the New Testament ain't what's going on right now. So, don't you think we need a new book? There probably will be a new book 500 years from now. You know, I mean, who's to know? They may have the Church of Next Gen. I might be a deity. God, like I'm like seriously, you know what I mean?
Church of Next Gen.
Yeah, like I'm serious, you know what I mean? And I just think the world, me personally, would be a better place, or anything, or if we just, or even like I said, religion. I'm not trying to, you know, bang on nobody, you know what I mean? But if they were to do the corpus behind a lot of the words and the meaning in this book, or you know what I mean, and see where they actually derive from, it will leave a lot of, like some people they pick and choose what they want to read from the Bible, like Leviticus. You ever read some of that shit there? Like some of that shit is wild. You know what I mean? You have a book here that talks about this very homophobic. You know what I mean? If you know, just a whole bunch of crazy, wild stuff. You know what I mean? You know, God first wants you to murder, you know, this person. You know what I mean? Like this is crazy, man. You told me, you know what I mean? Like some of the stuff in this book is just like this blows your mind. You know what I mean? But you know what I mean? Or you know, or just say the head, or you guys, or the Hebrews, you're my people. But shit, God created us too. Like this is what racism came from. You know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? Like, oh, you're my people. You know, you're the covenant, but screw those people over there. You know, no, screw them over there. You know what I mean? This is crazy as hell. Even to say that, you know, the God, I am a jealous God, and oh, like this shit is wild. So all the stuff that we got going on, right, whether we're jealous or this, that, and the other. So all like, where do our fuck the ways come from? Where did this shit come from? Oh, from the devil? Why would God make something that was His equal? You know what I mean? Why not destroy? If you so love the world, listen, this is really we can probably close the book on this one. It says is that God so loved the world that He gave us the only begotten Son, right? So if you so love the world that you gave your only begotten Son, right? Why are you letting the devil down here screw everything up? You know what I mean? To me, that never made any sense. You know what I mean? Like like you know what I mean? Like, damn, you so love the world, you gave your only begotten Son, but later on it says, if you got love for the world, you ain't got no love for the Father. I said, man, this shit here playing game. I can't get with this shit no more. And then you know what? Then hey yo, check it out though. This one really gets you trippy, right? Like I said, you got all those names in the book, whether it's Peter, Mark, Dave, and all this shit. Mind you, they ain't got no last names, right? And then you know what the Bible scholars, the Bible scholars and the Christian scholars and theologians said now. They say that those were just their writers' names, like Shakespeare. Like that's not even
pseudonyms or some.
Yeah, that shit wild, bro. Like you know what I mean? That shit to me, man. I'm like, man, you know, like I said, more powerful to you. You think that stuff makes you a better person, but I just think it's kind of sippy that they think that I don't know. Like you got billions of planets, just think you know that just us. We're basically made of water and carbon. There's water and carbon throughout the universe. You know, plenty of, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? They go post up right there. You know what I mean? Like what do you like? I don't know. Do you don't think is that just me, or do you think that's just, or I'm overthinking? Like, do that shit make any sense to you? You know what I mean?
Makes sense. Makes sense to me. Well, pretty much, actually.
What? Explain to me how did that make sense to you? That,
That makes sense to me. Is just the fact that it's a book. Anything that's written is written by the hands of man. No, valid proof of a deity writing it. A god or a deity would not need human hands to create a story. A perfect god would have a perfect mind or language of his own, and then be shown to the hands of man themselves. It wouldn't have to be interpreted.
So you're basically
It'd be the perfect language.
So you're basically saying that that's a good point. So you're basically saying that if God supposedly wrote the Ten Commandments, he need man to write the Bible.
Yeah, he did. He wouldn't need it.
Mm.
It'd be the perfect language. It'd be perfect because God is supposed to be perfect. And also on top of that, why would he choose a group of people in the middle of the desert when a specific time frame where they don't have the technologies like today, or even 50 years ago even? See,
you know what? Then again,
that's simple things like that though.
That all brings me back to me saying this, right? That's that's well put. That brings me back saying, because this one getting into my mainstream media, whatever. There's proof. Talking about archaeological, it's something you can't deny, that man has been on this earth for thousands of years without no religion, without no Bible. You know what I mean? None of this stuff. You know what I mean? And so, you know what I mean? So, like I told you guys, we never did this. I told you guys about about World War II, and I forget the name of the island, but it's over in the Pacific. That basically back then we didn't have the technology for the planes to fall around the world.
The Easter Island, is that the one you're referring to?
Or the Sound, but it was one of those islands. But actually they recently
because Easter Island's down there.
Did a documentary on it. But anyway, there was these indigenous people that were there. They had no contact with the outside world, right? And so the soldiers would land on these islands, make runways, fill them up, and stock it up. That's how they would go to war. They would start from flying from America. They would make these little islands in the Pacific, in Atlantic, in the Pacific, to either fly and attack Japan or fly and attack Germany, whatever the case may be, during World War II, right? I believe it was World War II. If not, it was World War I. One of those wars. So anyway, these people never seen planes before, and what happened when they land? They never seen, white people before, whatever the case is. First time we seeing white people in person, they were just out there living in the wilderness, right? And what happened was they started to worship them like gods. They literally worship them like gods, pray to them and stuff. And when they left, it's crazy that they built these model airplanes out of straw, whatever was there in the country, and would pray to them for their gods to come back, right? And I believe if it wasn't Vice, one of those things went back there, right? And they took a letter from the or something, or a video, whatever the case, from the chancellor in the UK. Europe, Britain got those chancellors and dukes and whatever the hell they got, Sir Dukes and stuff. They're saying, hey, we're not gods. We're just people like you. Don't you know that these people had a fit? That there was a thriving, religion in this culture for 50, 60 years. You know what I mean? Literally thriving. You know what I mean? They was out there preaching this shit to the people, how they was doing it. And when they went back to told them that it wasn't true, these people, their society collapsed. It blew. They couldn't stand it. You know what I mean? And and I say this when I talk to people or whatever, and I try not to be disrespectful. I ask you, why do you believe what you believe? Because not whatever religion you are, had you been born in another part of the world, say Japan or China or whatever, you may be praying to Buddha, or you may be praying to Yah, whatever the case may be. Why do you believe what you believe? So, you know what I mean?
I pray to Teddy Ruxpin, man. He grants
whatever
my
the
prayers.
case may be. You know what I mean? That's a very, very a question. Why do you believe what you believe? Because if it wasn't taught to you, you would you would have no knowledge of whatsoever. It's like me. My thing is, and again, if I'm wrong, may God forgive me. But if this God thing, business was real, to me, we would be born with knowledge itself. Everything in this world, whatever is, animal outside of us is born with knowing what to do, whether it's the animal, starfish, whatever. They have the instructions to go about and live their life. With us, everything has to be taught, right? But we talking about God, we made in his image and in his likeness. We should have been born with the knowledge of himself, you know what I mean? Or whatever the case may be. Everything has to be taught, and then we're dealing with man. And with man, nothing's perfect, you know what I mean? We're dealing with error, you know what I mean? So, to me, this never made any sense. You know what I mean? I don't know. Well, I'll give you an example, right? And look at it like this. So if God gave his only begotten son, right? He made the ultimate sacrifice. He gave his only begotten son, right? They crucified Jesus, right? Do you know how many people out there doing wrong in the name of Jesus, in the name of God, or whatever the case may be? You know how many wars were started in the name of, you had the Christian, what you call the from Assassin's Creed, what you call them people? The Knights, what you call them people? Basically, when they started spreading
Templars.
Oh, the
Christianity,
Templars.
Knight of Templars.
whatever. Like I said,
Holy shit! It's post up.
You had, so much blood was shed in the name of whatever the case may be, whether it's right or wrong, right? That's like, you know what I mean? If I'm seeing all these people doing it in my name, why ain't come out and stop some of this stuff, man? You know what I mean? Like you taking my name.
Here's some food for thought, though, Z man. It's like he came down and got sacrificed, but yeah, he didn't stay dead. So what was so it defeats the purpose of his sacrifice.
3
days later, he was risen.
Yeah, he rose back. But see, even in that, like I said, it's some again, and maybe because I went to school for history, I learned about that. But every culture, right? Take away Christianity, have their own story of their own deity, Osiris. Being crucified and dying for 3 days. And then coming back and that predates Christianity by thousands of years again. India got their own, Greek had their own. All parts of the world.
The most messed up part is though, man, it's the plot from Man of Steel. Didn't Man of Steel, Man of Steel, didn't he die for like 3 days or some shit? Superman in that movie.
Yeah,
something like that.
I don't know. Hey, Post Up, what's going on? Post Up, you just joined us.
Yeah, what's good, man? My girl kept me
It's cool, Shay. I know you just moved. It's cool.
occupied a little bit longer. Yeah, but I'm here though. Yeah, what's good?
No, I'm saying. Were you able to watch anything that I sent you?
Honestly, no.
No, I ain't studied. He said, no, I ain't studied, man. I ain't gonna bullshit you, man. I ain't take
I'm being honest.
But I feel like Post Up already knows a lot of the stuff, anyways.
Oh yeah,
I was trying to, but I was preoccupied. You and your girl over, she just want all your attention, just the whole time.
I can definitely dig. Well, let me ask you a question. We can wrap it up with you. Let me ask you a question. Like, what is your? Okay. Now, again, I'll let Nithus, he can explain to you. We were talking about where man, was genetically modified. Now, Nithus, you can explain to him what you watched, and and see what man supposed to got to say from there.
Yeah, following this guy named Lloyd Pye, he has some crazy stuff. All right, we always believe we evolved from apes, correct? Post Up.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, not me, but most people do.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but that's like the belief theory that they teach you in school now. Anyways, what this guy is saying is like, how is it that we evolved from apes, but yet have less genes in them because we only have 46 chromosomes, have completely different bones from them, less muscle, and we don't even have nearly as much hair as them.
Yeah.
Not even that. A lot of our skeletal structure doesn't even make sense. Like, they have way longer arms than us. Ours aren't nearly that long.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah.
And how are we so intelligent?
Yeah, there's no, I guess they say, like, the missing link, like, there's nothing, like, and it wouldn't be one link. It would have to be a whole bunch of links to go from that to what we are. But, like, we're just different, you know what I mean? And a lot of people say, well, that's only for 48 and 46. That's a lot of DNA. You know what I mean? A lot. You know what I mean? And then
even though we share 99% of DNA, that's still like thousands of fucking genes that are missing.
Yeah, and then on top of that, we have what you call a bunch of junk DNA with a bunch of errors. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's only found in us, or things that have been, quote unquote, genetically, like you say, genetically modified foods. Something that's genetically modified. You see a lot of these errors in things that have been tampered with. Genetically. You know what I mean? Or why we have so many different health problems, or born with, whatever. You know what I mean?
I look at it like this, man. A lot of people, and just say society as a whole, like to be told their origins, what opposed to finding out and researching themselves. And at this point, you only know what somebody told you, and you don't know if what they telling you is the truth or not. It's something I always say, you either have truth or you have a lie and truth clothing. And today's society, a lot of people whether accept the lie and truth clothing rather than finding out the truth, because most people probably be afraid of the truth. If they're finding out that their hard-on soul and spirit and energy and even money at this point been put into a religion or even into a God himself that doesn't really exist, that is terrifying. So whether they be terrified, they rather than settle with what they're being told. You know.
Me personally,
exactly. Everybody likes a good story.
You know what? Let me ask you a question. Like this is my own personal belief. And again, the belief is to not know to be for sure. But me personally, I think the world will be a much better place without religion. You know, you don't need religion.
It would be.
To be a good person. I was listening to one guy. I was having a conversation with this one guy, right? He said, "Man, well, it wasn't for no Jesus, man. You be out there raping, shooting." I said, "No, I don't believe. I ain't not. Oh, you calling me a sexual deviant? I don't need to believe in Jesus to not go out there and rape somebody's wife, or that's just common sense. Or I don't need to, like, just to, not to take something that doesn't belong to me. Like, to me, that's just, again, common sense. You know what I mean? If you take something that don't belong to somebody, gonna bust your ass, or you out there messing with somebody, and that, to me, again, that's just common sense. I don't need a religion. Again, religion is a man-made concept to do that. And like I said, look at the world today, right? In the whole, it's in 2017, right? We're still dealing with racism. Some people think just because of the color of their skin, I'm talking about 1/8 of your body, right? 1/8, literally, probably a 16th your skin, that makes you better or than another person. Now, what's trippy, right? I'm telling you, again, I told the story all the time, right? Is that they use this, even race in itself, right, to trick us, to keep us, arguing amongst each other. You know what I mean? Because a rich person, white person, than what a poor white person living next to him. You know what I mean? It's all about money, green, at the end of the day. It's not about whether you're white or black. It's about whether you're rich or you're poor. It's us, the 99%, against the 1%. You know what I mean? But again, though, how does the 1% keep us, confused? Don't keep your eye on the ball. It keeps us arguing amongst each other. You know what I mean? Whether it's, everybody's scared of Muslims, and what's crazy as hell, right? I was listening to this one guy talk, right? I've been in a bunch of different conversations. Like, yeah, man, this Islam stuff, man, and they don't believe in Jesus, this, that, and the other. He had all this stuff to say about Islam, right? I'm not Muslim or anything. But I said to him, what's up? You have any problem with Jews? Jews don't believe in Jesus either. Oh, no. See, no. I said, like, hold, bro. The Jews don't believe what you said. The Jews want to kill Jesus. If this is your thing, like, to kill your deity. So if you really had a problem with whoever, like, to me, you think you have a problem with the Jews. You know what I mean? They don't want to strong as they're going to stick. They strung his ass up there, didn't they? But look, I said it to say this: there was so much blood. It has been spread in the name of religion, whatever it is. You know what I mean? I don't care about whatever time and day. Like, you can't point to a part in history there
biases, fears, everything.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Just,
like,
I think the creation of us goes deeper than just the Bible itself. I mean, if you look at it, go back from the dirt from which you came, but we have chemicals in our bodies, the same chemicals. There's chemicals in the universe that's out in space right now that we have in our body right now. So it's more than just
people.
From. Yeah, it's deeper than that, and I like these discussions because I want to find out whether what I'm learning or what people's theories are truth or not. It opens a path of discussion to say, hey, this could have some truth to it, and it makes you look at life from a different perspective.
Exactly. And speaking on that post up, I believe last week you brought up the Nanuki, right?
The Anunnaki?
No. You talking about the Sumerians and all that?
Yes.
No, Z. No, I think Z brought that up. Z heavy into the Sumerians, man. I'm still learning. I ain't there yet.
Oh, okay, you ain't there yet.
I ain't there yet, man.
Well,
definitely.
You know what I mean? But no, Manithus had a good breakdown. I mean, it actually impressed me. You know what I mean? About what he said about, the Sumerians. Tell me what you said about the Sumerians and what you said about the Anunnaki, where they came in. Like, it was like the way you broke it down.
The Sumerians are really, really interesting people. Now, these guys are way older than Egyptians, yet they had, I would say, some better shit. They had an economy. They had writing. They had our fucking culture. They wrote about the smallest shit. Even
They wrote
like simple
everything down.
transactions at like merchants. They wrote
Yes,
everything
everything.
and accurately on top of that.
Yes.
So they're not going to just suddenly lie about weird shit. And they even explain shit like DNA. They explained that shit way back in the day. Z, you always bring up this example.
Yeah.
We talk about Noah's Ark, correct?
Yeah.
They didn't say Noah's Ark had fucking animals on there. They said they had the DNA on
They
there.
took the seed of every animal. Yeah.
Took the seed, exactly.
Even
they themselves said we were genetically modified.
Yeah.
That we were created after an image of their supposed god, which were the the aliens.
Yeah, well,
Anunnaki.
we call it the Anunnaki. And then, yeah, see, you know what? See, look, again, like I said, now, that's what comes to conflict. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'll give a little bit. Like, it's so much to the story. Like, and like I said again, I don't try to disrespect anybody's way they believe. But if you, I find it hard to believe that you believe in the Bible, right, or whatever book you believe in, but there's a book or something, tablets, that predates that by thousands of years. You know what I mean? Those same stories that are in the Old Testament came from a very, very older, ancient culture. You know what I mean? Just think about Noah, right? Noah, you got an ark, right? And he's going to put 2 of every animal. So he went to Alaska, got polar bears, came back and got a black bear, came and got, all the different types of snakes, whatever the case may be. You know what I mean?
2 body lice.
Yeah, and he was
caterpillars.
And just think how hard it is for animals in the zoo to mate. You know what I mean? Just 2 animals, right? And these 2 of every animal is going to populate the earth, right? Fine. You know what I mean? Now, again, that's that story. Then what the Sumerians put, that they took the seed, the DNA of every animal, whatever happened in the day after the flood or whatever may have happened, that the animals were remade again. And again, you had the Garden of Eden. You heard about the story, Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, and the Sumerians put that the Eden was the Anunnaki's, basically their laboratory or their ship, where they landed mother place in the Eden. And all this was taking place back in Sumer, which is modern day Iraq, right? Modern day Iraq. Bring it and listen. We can close the show. We'll give you a cliffhanger, which is modern day Iraq right now. The Sumerians, Sumer is now called Mesopotamia, is now called Iraq, right? Iraq is very deep with historical stuff, very deep, right? I told you guys before. I don't know if we talked about it on the show, but I may have discussed it with you guys before. We were talking about Saddam Hussein having these weapons of mass destruction, right? Now, most archaeologists, or whatever the case may be, come from Europe, from Germany. It's a lot of them jokers in Germany. That's the profession there, archaeologists. And they were digging around in Sumer, Iraq. You know what I mean? And they started to unearth different things. You know what I mean? And now, supposedly, I wasn't there. These people found something which was called the Stargate, right? Or whatever the case may be. Now, they going back again, the Sumerians, again, they talked about weapons of mass destruction, literally. Talking about weapons of mass destruction, that the heat was like that of 1,000 suns. It was so hot that it can burn a man's shadow into the pavement. Now, if you know what happened back in World War II when you dropped the bomb on Japan, you know what I mean, and that it was, you seen people's actual shadow.
Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
You seen people's actual shadow burned into the walls, into the ground. You seen people's shadows. So again, these people was talking about this thousands of years ago, that their gods went to war with each other because they had wars here on Earth, right? The Anunnaki here, came here. They actually, they started, they was here for a while. Then they started fighting amongst each other. They wanted to rule Earth. This one wanted to have whatever the case may be. So they had wars with each other here on Earth, supposedly. This is what the Sumerians wrote, and their weapons. They told, and the Sumerians wrote about their weapons and their airships, and the rays were the suns. Was hot as 1,000 suns and all stuff. So anyway, going back to present day, about Iraq. They was talking about, Saddam Hussein having these weapons of mass destruction and all stuff, right? So, they didn't start that shit again with the second one. What's it? The second thing, when we invaded them again or whatever. The Pope wanted to go to Iraq, and Saddam was like, no, you know what I mean? But he was like, no. Through the German archive, throw everybody out there, bitch, throw everybody out. So again, this is the conspiracy. You know what I mean? That they thought Saddam had got his hands on some of that ancient technology. You know what I mean? And wasn't able to use it. against the rest of the world. So that's why they invaded them again. So what gives that rumor a little credence is because during the war, check this out, this is real shit here. During the war, that our forces invaded their museums. And the curator, remember, you can look at the documents, there's actually videos on YouTube. The curator of the museums was crying.
Middle East, guys.
Yeah, he was crying because like you guys are taking our history. You didn't have the right. Like our soldiers. Now, what the hell this got to do with war and weapons? They're in the museum, taking shit that don't belong to them. You know what I mean? And the stuff they was taking was things that that came from the Sumerian culture and the things that they talked about. Now, again, when these tablets and stuff were, and again, these, like I said, you just said, they had a habit of writing everything down. Everything. Like, we have journals and diaries today. They wrote everything. I went to the store today. I got 3 eggs, 5 pieces of bacon. Man, they wrote everything down. Yeah, you found some tablets, and they called them, what's later on got translated to gods. They called them their lords. This one he smells, and he's always on the phone, whatever they describe as a phone, and whatever they was able to talk to other people, like we got cell phones or Wi-Fi or Skype, and where they were explaining, like he's always doing this and talking to somebody on Mars or whatever the case may be. This is what these people were writing down. You know what I mean? Just a bunch of, they were very detailed in their notes, right? And what they wrote down. So, I think 2 years ago, you had the Iraqi Minister of Defense, or Minister, is he the Minister of Defense or Minister of Information, had was on news, can say that we discovered a 8,000-year-old airport in Iraq. Now, you can go on YouTube, unless you're going to say this is some nut job, you don't know what the hell he's talking about. Again, we're talking about somebody with the job title of somebody being like the vice president over there, or the governor, Christie, or whatever state you may live in, you know what I mean? We're not talking about some, some joke on the corner street and screaming that's drunk. He went on that. No, not our TV. Like, our news here is very censored. Al Jazeera, or whatever TV.
Al Jazeera.
There you go, TV. The Middle East, it was talking about, we discovered an 8,000-year-old airport, and he was like, yeah, it basically confirms everything that the Sumerians talk about. But even one better, because again, these people took great notes. That they found, like I say, a log manifest that they were taking trips from here to Venus. Now, again, this is on these tablets that they discovered on this, whatever, this wrong way, this strip, whatever they unearthed back in Iraq, you know what I mean? And he wanted in the news to talk about it, you know what I mean? So basically proved of what, it gives credence to what the Sumerians were talking about, thousands of years ago. Just think about that, like, you know what I mean? Now, again, you would think a discovery like that would be on channel 2, 4, 7, and 11. Ain't nobody talking about this, you know what I mean? Unless you're going to call this guy and say he's crazy, or that's just some, you know what I mean? But then the Christian, that's just to pull you away from God. That's the devil shit there. To me, that in itself was just amazing, you know what I mean? Like, damn, they was going, not that I know, I mean, whatever they doing, they ain't telling nobody, talking about they was going from here to Venus back then, you know what I mean? They found flight manuscripts, and again, it all dates back to the Bible, the Tower of Babel, you know what I mean? Let us go down there and confuse man's tongue. Now, in the Bible, they said that they were building a tower to sit in the heavens with their gods. The Sumerians, they was basically building a ship to go visit their gods. You know what I mean? Same story, just then. And then again, the Sumerians said that the Anunnaki can, basically anything that man puts his mind to that he can achieve, that he can achieve. They felt like man was progressing too fast. You know what I mean? They were progressing too fast. And they needed a dumber worker, you know what I mean? Basically, you know what I mean? They said, now how the flood or whatever, they got rid of those and made another one that was a little bit more dumber, a little bit more not as big and as strong. Because again, according to the older records and what they put, we were much bigger, much stronger, and much smarter. You know what I mean? And that kind of scared the Anunnaki, quote unquote. They made, hey, these motherfuckers might overthrow us or whatever the case may be. But again, you know what I mean? It scared the hell out of them. Like, damn, these motherfuckers down here. Damn, they down there building planes and shit already. Oh, it's too fast. You know what I mean? Whatever the case say, let us go down here and confuse man's tongue. And that's where we got the different languages and stuff from, whether you speak German or... Now, again, not saying it's true, but this is what these people wrote down as part of their history. Thousands of years ago. It's much older than anybody's, than these Bibles or whatever the case may be. What you think about that, Post?
And,
what
do you think, Post?
Well, you know what? in this day and age, man, anything is possible. Because from what I've been told growing up, I'm figuring out that a lot of the things I've been told growing up is a lie. And if you look back at religion itself, even from Jesus and all this stuff, a lot of that shit comes from the Sumerian culture and the things that went on in Egypt. So it has some truth to it. They got them damn tablet of Thoth, them green emerald tablets that's indestructible.
Yeah.
That's made of a material. That's made of a material that they don't even know what the material is.
Yeah.
And it's indestructible. And the Thoth was supposed to is a man that had the head of a bird. You know what I'm saying? So if his tablet exists, that means at some point he existed. So the Sumerians and the Anunnaki existed. And if we supposedly been created from from the genes, somebody experimented our genes and shit, anything is possible, shit. But if I'm a race though, if I'm creating somebody and they getting too strong and they getting too smart and they moving too fast, I'm like, hold on, these motherfuckers at some point go to they gonna start outsmarting us. So
yeah,
I'm gonna
speaking
go
of on that post up and Z too fast. All right, essentially, the Anunnaki built us as laborers, correct? They wanted us to mine our gold. We were better at that for our environment.
Slave.
So when slave, I say laborer. But yes, a slave. When you build a slave, you don't want them to get smart, and you don't give a shit when you're building them. So that's why we also have our genetic issues with our birthing and shit. Because when they made a mistake, they didn't give a shit to fix it. We were just slaves anyways.
Okay.
So we
was put here to mine Earth.
Yeah, hold on 1 second. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, no. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, tell them. Yeah, we basically, again, I'll give you the short version. The Anunnaki were having problems on their planet with the atmosphere through pollution or whatever the case may be. Just and the way to
they fuck their shit up.
Yeah, to prepare their.
Oh, it's just like us.
Yeah, you can put gold within the atmosphere, and basically what the gold does is reflect back the harmful rays from the sun. You know what I mean? The UV rays, whatever outlet. So you would crush it up, and they was put it in ray smoke, real fine, like smaller than sand, and spray it, in the atmosphere. Or above there, up top, and it reflect back the harmful rays from whatever. You know what I mean? Space or whatever. You know what I mean? So basically, that's why they came here, and gold was supposed to be exclusive to Earth. You know what I mean? Different planets got different minerals. Like I said. I was reading the book. They say that Saturn, it rains diamonds. You know what I mean? Literally, it rains diamonds. You know what I mean? Next week's show is going to be about Saturn. Saturn is very trippy, very, very trippy. You got a 8-sided hexagon that's in the cloud above Saturn. Like, who the fuck put that there? But anyway, we're going to talk about the ringmakers of Saturn. You know what I mean? And the guy, what the hell is Dr. Norman?
Disco. It's got to be a disco.
His name is Norman something. He wrote the book, The Remakers of Saturn, and it's trippy as hell. He was saying that NASA, and again, I'm just a little hip. I'm going back to what I'm saying. This is for next week's show. He basically was saying that, and listen, I'm gonna send y'all the video when we finish, but just you see this little old white man, right? You know what I mean? I'm not saying my man racist or nothing, right? But he was like, but NASA scared the hell out of NASA. He said that when they started, went to what was it, the moon or somewhere? They went that they seen certain beings, right? Or I think it was the moon when they went to the moon, all right, or whatever they seen these beings or whatever, right? He said, and she said that because what happened, it was another guy. Oh my God, I'm so horrible with names. So the guy name is Jim Paul, whatever, Ryan, right? Another guy that worked at NASA and stuff. He said when he went into the docking room, he sent on the monitor. There was they had our astronauts, and then with this motherfucker that was about 12 feet tall with a helmet on or whatever, like extremely big, you know what I mean? And he ended up losing his job and his pension and all that shit over that shit, right? This guy here, NASA tried to cover, said he never worked for him, but he got pictures of him with other astronauts working on the shuttle, but NASA tried to say the nigga never worked for him. He getting welfare and everything. He may have died, but I'm gonna see the clip about him. But he was saying that it was a motherfucker in the space hangar was like, at the smallest he had to be was like 10 feet tall. Now, going back to this guy's name was Norman Burst, I believe. When he was talking, he sit up in his chair, little old white man and shit, right? So yeah, they were and shit. So the lady was interviewed. It was on camera. She was interviewing him. Said, yeah. So you were saying that the remakers of Saturn and this, that, and the other, and that NASA took pictures of them landing. So what were they? You know, were they the Nordics, or you know, you never heard about the Nordics aliens or the Palladians or whatever with Billy Meyer? He was like, no, they were black. What I mean, or dark? No, I mean, no, they were black, and they were like, you know, she killed Nils us. Like I say, it's an understatement. They were extremely big. You know what I mean? Like he was saying, they were some huge, big, black, 12 feet, you know, it's dog. And again, this ain't no type of quackpot here. This is another guy that worked for NASA. They got all types of doctorates and PhD, had above clear, you know, above top secret shit and all that shit. But anyway, back to this is gonna be next week's show, right? We got a lot of shit about Saturn. But back to what we were saying about the Anunnaki, they came here for gold. And what was hard work for them, like you know, backbreaking work in the mounds, the digging and all that stuff. You know how it is. You know how it is mining now, any day, whatever the case may be. So their workers started complaining. So you know what we do? Hold up, we're pretty smart. Let's make us a slave. So they tried using what was there, but they wasn't as smart. You know what I mean? Couldn't talk, and you know what I mean. The earlier forms of man, whether Neanderthals, whatever was indigenous to the planet back then, whatever, you know, Homo erectus, whatever was there when they landed back then, wasn't that intelligent. You know what I mean? So what they did was, that's what it comes to. It says in the Sumerian Tales of Creation, let us create man in our image and our likeness. So they genetically modified, took some of them, the good parts of them. We got the good and the bad. The good parts of them and the bad part of them was unfortunately, whether it's us warring or us being very violent people, whatever the case may be, right? Took all the good and the bad from them, because the Anunnaki was a very, very warlike people. You know what I mean? Always fighting. They was fighting amongst each other on Earth. So that's where all this war and shit. This shit come from them. So, but what happened? They said was the first slaves they made. They started being unruly, started asking questions and this, that, and the other. You know what I mean? You know, just started being cut up. So they, whatever. Now, some people attribute it to being the flood or whatever the case may be, but they did away with the first group of slaves. You know what I mean? But then it goes even more deep into what you call the Garden of Eden, the story in the Bible, because we can close the show with this. I'll let you guys comment. That they said that basically Enki and Enlil, there was the two guys back then, Enki and Enlil. Enki was the creator, right? And he basically, it's like me, I'm an animal lover, right? He loved his creation, you know what I mean? Enlil was his brother, didn't give a fuck about us, you know what I mean? He would work us till we die. He felt sorry for us. He basically treated us like cattle, right? But, you know, I'm just working all day. And what they would do was mating, what even with mating, but they would select the best breeds. Like they don't know, you know what, pit bulls, whatever, take the best in the stock and mate those. Yeah. But it wouldn't be made. He would just take the semen, insert it to what you call it. You know what I mean? However they would do it back then, and that was it. What happened was, Enlil was like, I'm gonna teach man. This was what comes with the thing with the devil. Some type of, you know, show him, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Basically, give him some knowledge, so you know, before he can start doing things for himself. So, remember in the story in Genesis when it says that when God came down to earth and he said, Adam, where art thou? Where are you, Adam? And Adam was like, I was hiding because I was naked, Father. What you talking about being naked? Who told you about that? You know what I mean? So basically, that's where that story comes from, because when I forgot Enki and Enlil's father, when he came back down to earth, we seen the slaves with clothes on. You seen slaves having sex. They, who taught you about having sex? Or, you know what I mean? And he started throwing motherfuckers out of the Garden of Eden. That's where that story comes from. They got kicked out of the Garden of Eden. Because when their father came back down to earth, you seen, you know, slaves over there having sex. They knew nothing about that. You know, they would just work. They would, you know what I mean? You know, they was like kids. They didn't know anything. They didn't know about being naked. They had clothes on. You know what I mean? Like, who taught you all this? So what he would do is he started throwing people out of the Garden of Eden. So that's where that story comes from, that Adam and Eve got kicked out of the Garden of Eden. While they was only, you know, when they lived in the Garden of Eden, all of their needs were met. They were food, you know, fed and all that shit. So when they got kicked out of the Garden of Eden, they had to go fend for themselves. But that's where that story comes from. You know, that they got kicked out of, you know, Adam and Eve got kicked out of the Garden of Eden. Like I said, if you believe the Bible, which is cool, but those stories come from a much older culture. I mean,
controller, man.
Yeah, my controller died. It comes from a much older culture that predates that by thousands. That's where those same stories come from. You know what I mean? But you guys can add from that, take from what you want. You know what I mean? But that,
are we still there?
Yeah, I think I'm here. Controller disconnected. Anyways, guys. Yeah.
See, the thing that Z is referring to is Epic of Creation. If there's no like links to it at all, and
take it on Beyond Wisdom. You know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's old Babylonian periods known as the time of the 10 great gods, and that's what he's referring to, and that's where the Epic of Creation is, and that's where Z gets a lot of his knowledge from, is from that too, which
What's bad? What's
most of
that?
it's like
You guys hear me now?
valid. It's true.
Yeah.
Nothing else besides that. That's the only thing I could say about it.
Z's just
And it goes back to the
back.
Anunnaki too.
And anyways, guys, if you're curious about anything, check out channels like Beyond Creepy, Paranormal Junk,
Yeah,
Mysterious Middle East. That's a really good one. And check out people like Lloyd Pye. I mean, this dude knew his stuff.
yeah. I'm gonna link to him right
Fucking
now.
Great documentaries.
You guys can, so maybe you guys can, again, you can peep out some of the stuff that we're talking about and come back for next week's show. Hey, post up. You want to leave us a word? Get the hell up out of here.
No, I will be. I just moved into a new place. Sorry.
So you left the shelter? You in the shelter no more?
No, I ain't. I'm out the shelter, boy.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheerios to Fruit Loops right about now. You feel me?
For sure.
But I'm gonna be back next show. I'm gonna be on time.
My man.
Knowledgeable on the whatever we're talking about. I'm gonna go research a lot of this stuff between now and then, and then we're gonna have a great discussion next show.
Man, before we go, let me
fantastic discussion. Z already teased us what we're going to talk about next week, but we're also going to talk about Resurrection because that's something that King Blood really wants to talk about.
We can do Resurrection. Y'all can pick. Y'all want to do? Let the audience pick. Y'all want to do Resurrection next week? There's a lot of stories about incarnation, or y'all want to talk about Saturn next week?
Yeah. Well, I say we do that because he really wanted to talk about that like this week, so we could take his request.
Who said they want to talk about it?
King Blood, Garrett.
You want to talk about Resurrection, you said? Incarnation? Yeah. Okay, we can do that. Whatever. We can
Resurrection,
reincarnation. I think we better hit on all that. Even Saturn. I definitely want to hit on that Saturn because that's very interesting.
Yeah, well, I think this show goes on for a while, so we can hit at least 2 huge topics. But anyway, closing the show out, I just want to, for you guys to know, we basically talked about the Sumerians the whole time. The Sumerians were a crazy race. They had culture, they had merchandise, they had writing, they did all this shit. They actually described the earth, they actually described planets, the rings, the colors they were, and we weren't able to do this shit until somewhat recently. Guys, these guys were insane. They predate the Egyptians.
Yeah.
Just think about that.
By thousands of years.
Thousands
of years.
I think it's like 34. It says here for 34,000 years was some pretty good estimates.
They had to be way more technologically advanced than us.
Yeah, this stuff is just unexplainable, and even like the way they counted Earth and shit. Like Earth isn't the 3rd planet for them; it's the 7th. They counted from like way back to over here.
Yeah, they said that
from the sun to Earth.
Planet. Well, they do state that it's planets out there in our solar system that NASA is not telling us about.
No, hold on. Even more post-up, they actually described like how our planets look. They always said Pluto was a moon. We didn't realize Pluto was a dwarf planet until way fucking later. We thought that was a regular planet.
Exactly.
Until the 1930s.
You can't explain a lot of this spooky shit.
Yeah, but you know what they basically saying that it's even through right now, that basically how our planet stay, in formation and stuff, is with the gravitational pull, and Pluto's not big enough to affect Neptune's, to keep it where it is in orbit. It has to be something outside of that, of Pluto, that is able with enough mass and stuff to keep Pluto, Neptune in line with Uranus and stuff like that. And there's something that affects the way that it turns or moves. It has to be a much bigger body. It's supposed to be like 5 times bigger than Jupiter, whatever the case may be. But that's where their creators supposedly came from. Some because they call
it
that
Planet X?
Yeah, some people say Planet X.
That's the one labeled. That's the one labeled as X, and some people even claim it's a dark sun. Or a brown dwarf or something like that too.
But
Nibiru is a weird one.
We're a dual system.
Yeah. That's what the Anunnaki. I'm sorry, the Sumerians said that the Nibiru was where their creators came from.
Yeah, where they came from. And what's actually really interesting is Nibiru supposedly clashed with another planet, and that planet actually eventually became Earth. Correct?
Tiamat. Yeah,
exactly, Tiamat. And all of those parts, because even look at the asteroid belt, which we still can't explain today why that fucking exists. That shit has water out there, guys.
See,
that doesn't make any sense.
Look, so again, this is what happened.
We just found water too.
Yeah, here's the thing.
NASA brought up too, though.
Listen, this last guy that
y'all know NASA has no answers. Remember?
Look, we're gonna close the show with this to explain the whole asteroid belt, so that we're going. Now again, we talk about how detailed these people were. You know what I mean? But now again, they wrote this as part of their history that Nibiru, Planet X, crashed with Tiamat. which is another planet where the astral belt is, right? And the remnants of Tiamat, which became Earth. Now, after so long as this whole thing, flat Earth thing, came from, after billions of years, whatever, it became a little bit more circular. You know what I mean? And it took access water with it from Tiamat, but they collided with each other. And again, that's how we got these these large asteroid belts that sit between Mars and I believe Jupiter or whatever the case may be. That's how that became here. And again, this is what these people wrote about. You know what I mean? How would they even have the knowledge of that? That's the $1 million question. But again, they said this is who told us.
And you saying that makes the strength of the world being flat.
No,
you're not finna get from two planets crashing. You finna get a perfect spherical.
I didn't say no. That's not what. Listen, no. Here's again. Through gravity. Listen. No, again. Ain't my word. I mean, through gravity and time. You know what I mean? It forms like It's like a piece of clay. You can mold it, shit spinning and stuff like that. After a while, not saying it maybe took a couple billions of years, but maybe that's where they got the whole flat Earth thing came from. Now scientists went on and improved, and explained it. You know what I mean? Tried to explain, why they didn't understand why comets had water in their tail and stuff like that. All that shit was those are pieces of Tiamat. You know what I mean? When the planets colliding or whatever the case may be. No, actually, it didn't collide.
Exactly.
It didn't collide. Okay, it
see, that's why they keep
They collided with one of the moons.
That's why they never show you a real picture of the Earth.
It collided with one of the moons of Aruba, whatever the case may be, a bigger moon, and boom. It was like
which was about the size of Mars, pretty much.
Yeah, it's like one of their moons.
Yeah.
Now, again, just think about
this.
Just think about this. Try to just blow your mind. You just think like, damn, whoa, this collided, bro. We talking about a culture that's thousands of years old that wrote that. You understand that? Just think about that.
Like, these guys predate the Egyptians. That's fucking nuts.
There's
no way they could have known all this.
That'd be a perfect reason why not show a real image of the Earth.
Oh, but that flat Earth
shit.
Don't start that flat Earth shit.
But
we want to go ahead and end the show.
Don't start that shit.
Before we end the show, I just want to let you guys know this is still a newer show. We have a lot to discuss, and sorry we haven't been taking your comments, but we will get there eventually. We just
I ain't seen them, but I want to look at my. Sorry.
Yeah.
Look, next week's show.
Skittles.
We will start taking questions. It's just a little young. Sorry.
What you say, bro? What you say? Beyond Wisdom.
I said we're sponsored by Skittles, Hard Work, and McDonald's.
All right, Mom. That's
the
quote of the day. We'll catch you guys next week, or next Wednesday. We shoot the show around 10:30. Also, maybe tomorrow or the next day. If you didn't catch the beginning of the show, we had a lot of good stuff. I'm gonna upload it to YouTube, just to build the audience.
YouTube.
I'm just gonna leave it here and maybe put it on the Patreon. But anyway, thank you for rocking out with us, my man Beyond Wisdom, my man Nethus, my man Post Up. We catch you guys next Wednesday.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. But we broadband books. We stream all the time though. We probably stream tomorrow.
Yeah, we're gonna be on this Halo grind, just so you guys know.
Halo.
Oh shit. Halo.
Yeah, we out here.